times. That will allow a fairly widespread frost to form here by the morning on Sunday, and a few freezing fog patches also likely here by the early hours. Temperatures below freezing then across parts of Scotland, but mostly frost-free, with temperatures holding up just above freezing across the south of the UK. So we head through Sunday then to start the day. A lot of cold weather across Scotland, some early sunshine coming through once the fog and frost lifts, but some of that fog could well take a while to clear on Sunday. A few brighter breaks coming through at times across Northern Ireland, and then we head into quite cloudy skies across England and Wales. Again, the cloud thick enough in places to give 1 or 2 spots of rain. The best of the early brightness across England and Wales out towards the far west and southwest. Heading through the rest of Sunday then, once that fog does finally clear across Scotland, plenty of fine weather to come, lots of sunshine here. Some sunshine at times across Northern Ireland, a few breaks across northwest England and West Wales, locally down towards the far southwest, but elsewhere quite a cloudy day in store. Again, the cloud thick enough in places to give the odd patch of rain, and then later in the day some clearer skies coming into the far southeast of England. Temperatures generally speaking close to average, but still quite breezy, so feeling chilly out and about, and temperatures certainly suppressed across the north where the fog is slow to clear. As we head into the evening on Sunday, frost soon returning across Scotland, and some frost also forming under clear skies towards the south and southeast of the UK. And as for the next few days, well, into the early part of next week, it stays pretty quiet across the UK, some sunshine developing during the day, but certainly quite a bit of frost around as we go into the overnight periods.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We want to make the new year your best year yet, with a chance to win our greatest cash prize to date. A simply stunning £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Treat the family to that bucket list holiday you've always fancied. Get your dream car you've always wanted. Or just relax, safe in the knowledge that the coming year is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace to
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
the People's Channel?
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night and this is the Saturday 5. It's the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show, live from the GB News studios in London, England. I'm Will Kingston, along with Dr. Renee, Emma Trimble, Trey Lowe and, for better or worse, Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show, I'll be telling you why Labor bribery won't be enough to take your kids off to war.
And Christians are being hunted in Nigeria.
Christmas is under attack.
Freedom of speech on the right is dead. And racism is hurting our NHS.
Yeah, of course it is, Kai. It's 6 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Welcome to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it is a cornerstone of this show that we want to hear your views. Please get them in to gbnews.com/yoursay to steal a quote. We read more of your responses on this show than any other show on GB News. I don't even think it's particularly close, to be honest with you. Kai, you were late today. Why were you late?
I was on a delayed train from Cornwall, which is where I spent my Christmas with my family. I stood for 4 hours. So thank you, Great Western Railways. Not.
As Trey said, it's good for your bum.
It's good for your bum.
Yeah, and a surprising display of resilience from the left. I can actually appreciate that, Kai. Well done. Please get your questions in for Ask the 5. No topics are off limits, of course. And please also vote in the poll for the Saturday Scrap. There are a few cracking topics that you can choose from. Do you want us to debate whether we should ban trail hunting? Should we stop all NHS immigration until every British trained doctor has a job? And no surprises where Dr. Renee stands there. And number 3, would a new leader save Labor in 2026? All worthy of discussion, but it's up to you, ladies and gentlemen. Before we start tearing each other apart, though, it is your Saturday night news with the wonderful Bethany Elsey.
Thank you. Good evening. Your top stories at 6:01. Russia launched a barrage of missiles towards Ukraine overnight, destroying many homes and leaving hundreds of thousands without power. Meanwhile, Ukraine's president is meeting with Canada's Prime Minister to bolster support ahead of further peace negotiations with Donald Trump tomorrow. Volodymyr Zelensky thanked Mark Carney for Canada's support in attempts to bring an end to the war with Russia. He also is set to hold a phone call with European leaders later this evening.
Last weeks we had good steps in diplomacy, but we can't live in illusion that it gives us possibility to have less air defense. With Russia it doesn't work. So thank you very much, Mark, for this meeting. We will have bilateral, and as you said, we will join our European friends. And tomorrow I will have, I hope, very important and very constructive.
The UK government is launching a gap year scheme to give school and college leavers a taste of the Army, Royal Navy or RAF without a long-term commitment. The course is aimed at under 25s and is part of efforts to solve long-term recruitment and retention problems. Applications will open in the spring, with plans to recruit more than 1,000 a year. A senior union leader is urging the government to improve workers' living standards amid fresh evidence that people are still suffering from a cost of living crisis. The General Secretary at the TUC, Paul Novak, says economic insecurity is draining people's faith in mainstream politics. It comes as a survey of more than 2,000 adults reveals 1 in 5 are skipping meals every day, 1 in 3 are cutting back on heating, and 4 in 5 say their finances are either stagnant or getting worse. State of emergencies have been declared in both New York and New Jersey as winter storms caused delays and cancellations at airports. More than 2,000 international and 14,000 domestic flights have had to be cancelled. People across the northeast have been advised to stay off the roads because of treacherous conditions. Ice storm warnings have also been issued for most of Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. And the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's Chief Communications Officer is stepping down after less than a year in the role. It's Harry and Meghan's 11th publicist in 5 years. Meredith Main says she's pursuing a new opportunity next year, but has the utmost gratitude and respect for the couple. At the same time, the Sussexes have also parted ways with US-based PR firm Method Communications after just 7 months. You're up to date. Let's get back to the Saturday 5.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
It's Saturday night, you're with the Saturday 5. Yes, I would suggest literally the only reason to remember what day of the week it is during the zombie period between Christmas and the New Year. We certainly haven't forgotten. Over the next 3 hours, the biggest debates, the hottest topics and the most entertaining interviews. And I can tell you we've got a couple of absolutely brilliant interviews lined up tonight. Let's not waste a minute. Well, let's not wait a further minute.
Further 4 hours.
I'm going to kick us off. As reported in the Telegraph today, ladies and gentlemen, the government is pushing a scheme for school leavers who will be trained to fight in war zones as part of a voluntary paid gap year in the armed forces. It will kick off in March 2026 with the bold target of 150 young adults under the age of 25 receiving £26,000 in exchange for basic training to test out life in the armed forces. Now, do I think this is a bad idea? No. But as with so many things this government does, it's a band-aid solution to a leg that has been hacked off above the knee. It is shifting deck chairs on the wreckage of the Titanic at the bottom of the ocean. It is a meaningless gesture that won't achieve its stated aim of solving a crisis in recruitment because it doesn't address the actual problem. Just like their small boats policy doesn't address the legal framework that enables illegal migrants to arrive and stay in this country. What's the real problem that Labor won't even admit, let alone address, you may ask? Well, along with their fellow leftists, they have talked down this country and its history for decades, to the point where many Gen Zers are ashamed to be British. They have demonised young men and continue to do so via nauseating shows like Adolescence and school programs that address toxic masculinity. They have diluted the culture of Britain via mass migration to the extent that many young people don't even know what they would be fighting for. It's no wonder that a Times poll earlier in the year found that only 11% of Gen Z would fight for this country. The other 89% are aligned with this young man.
If a war was to break out, would you fight for this country? Absolutely no way. This ain't my country. I might be a British citizen, but I'm here just to live and be at peace. I'm not here to fight no one else's battles, you know what I mean? If it means that I can't live peacefully, I might first take it out of there, you know what I'm saying?
If Labor thinks sending 150 kids on a gap year will solve the recruitment crisis, they are mistaken. The rot they have created runs too deep. Kai, I did notice in the corner of my eye there a combination of befuddlement, anger, amusement, all of the above. What would your response be?
Well, the befuddlement is permanent, I'm afraid, for those regular viewers of the show will know. I was really interested to see where you'd go with this, Will, but really tying what a secular decline in army numbers that we see pretty much across the Western world with how this society talks about men. I don't really see that being the real story here. And also, to call this a sort of sticking plaster ignores what you know, which is this part of the Strategic Defence Review that has a whole array of different policy measures that hopes to make us battle ready, as we obviously need to do. So
Could I ask on that? You know as well as I do that there is a reason that would be on the front page of the Telegraph, and that's because the government decided to leak that particular part of the Defence Review. Why did they leak that part? 150 kids.
The Strategic Defence Review came out before Christmas, I believe.
Yeah, why has this been leaked on the front pages?
I'm not sure. We've seen a number of different things, right, in the last few weeks, haven't we, about the state of defence in this country. Obviously, it is both a moral, a strategic, but also an existential issue for this government and for future governments, because the fact of the matter is we've not been battle-ready for a long time. Our technology is fraying at the seams. But actually, there is a new threat, one that we haven't had for a long time, which is the great power competition between us and then Russia and China. And the United States' role in that power competition has now completely changed because of Trump. Well, that's why we're seeing this drip drop of things, because clearly they need to show that we need to step up to.
I agree with the last piece there. Renee, have I overreached here?
No, you haven't, but I don't think Kai has either. So I kind of agree with both of you, which is rare.
Deary me.
So I know.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Let's stop there.
I do not think it is a bad idea to offer our youth some opportunity. It's a decent salary for a year. Yeah. And previous years when they've actually done things like this in the military, they've had a 50% retention rate, because once people get a taste of it, actually they think it's quite a good idea and they like it. And actually there are some amazing careers that you can embark on within our military. You can become doctors, engineers, all sorts of things. I think that you're right. We have, as you know, and I feel this very passionately, we have turned our boys into quivering wrecks in the corner and probably taken away their...
Or on live television.
Yeah, or on live television. So I do think that is relevant too. I also think we have denigrated the view of this country to such a degree that you get people like that boy who spoke on there saying, oh, I just want to live in peace, this is my country, but I wouldn't fight for it. That has to change. Yeah. And this might be a very small step, because I do believe they can ramp it up to 2,000. Yeah. Might be a very small step. So I'm not going to knock it for once. I'm going to say, let's do more of it. And actually, let's stop these kids going to university. Get them in there and let them do a proper job.
Emma, a very small step in the right direction or a diversion from bigger problems?
Yeah, I mean, it is a very small step, isn't it? 150. I agree with you, Will, and I think that you are obviously going to have a recruitment crisis if you really, from a very young age, training children to be the opposite of proud in their country, training children from a very young age that everything about their country is evil. They're obviously not going to think that it's something worth putting their life on the line for.
And everything about their sex.
And everything about their sex. I mean, it's talking about masculinity always constantly in toxic terms. It's also all of these stories that you see in the press about veterans potentially being dragged through the courts for things that they've done while they were under active service. So I think there are all sorts of reasons why we have a recruitment crisis. Yeah, it's great to have a programme that helps young people, see whether or not they might like to have a career in the military without perhaps completely committing to it. I also don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have younger people learning those skills, because at some point we might need to have conscription.
I agree with that. Trey, do you draw the same cultural link that I've drawn between a recruitment crisis and some of the societal issues that I raised?
I would say some. I think you guys are missing out on one thing. I think people don't think most of these wars that we fought are that just. I think young people are thinking, what's in it for me? You've looked at the Iraq War, a lot of the stuff that's going. People are thinking, do I really want to die for these government? I think that's what's happening. People are just thinking it's not worth it. I think something like, say, the Falklands War, for instance, people got behind it. It's quite obvious. But some of these other wars, they're going to go into Iraq, go into Libya. People are probably thinking, why? What's in it for me? Because it doesn't benefit the ordinary person, these wars. And I think young people are thinking, I don't even have a future in the country anymore. Why would I fight and die for it?
I don't know if I agree, right? I think that there was seemingly a just cause, a cause that people could get behind, but then the disappointment, the shame at being misled and about being drawn to their deaths, I think that's why people look back at Iraq and Afghanistan. I might be wrong. I think it's wrong. But we haven't had an enemy like that for a long time.
No, I love it when the left eats its own, Renee.
Yeah, I also think if you instill in your children a pride in their country, they won't question their government asking them to go to war.
That's dangerous. I think they should question their government about why are we fighting this particular war. I think most young people would fight and die in World War II. It's quite clear.
How do you think you control an army when you have every soldier questioning the orders that they give?
You're all looking, all
No. I don't think
so. As Trey just said.
I generally think there are a lot of people that think a lot of the recent wars have been a little bit pointless. How has it benefited normal people? It's not like the country itself has been under threat. We've gone over to other countries and people haven't quite figured out why. Why have we done that? Why have we intervened in this war? But I do say this, though. I do agree with you, Dr. Renner. I think it would be good for young boys to get that level of discipline that they would
that
get from
point
being
that
in
you
the
did
army.
make about how if this was a World War II type threat, you think that that is a different type of challenge.
I think these numbers would reverse.
Emma, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
No, look, I think that the elephant in the room here is multiculturalism within the context of globalisation, because Britain has become an increasingly transient place where people come here for a short amount of time and then they move on somewhere else. They're not rooted in particular areas. They're not rooted necessarily in particular communities within the national community. And you have all of these multicultural policies that encourage people to maintain their connection with whichever country it was that they came from, which is inevitable with the internet and globalisation. I mean, we've got Bangladeshi councillors in Tower Hamlets who are running to be Bangladeshi MPs whilst they're in office in Britain. I don't think in a context like that you're going to have people feeling the kind of national sense of defensiveness that you would have in a more cohesive society.
Trey has noted his disagreement, but that's all the time we have for this particular segment, unfortunately.
And we are not shocked. Sorry.
Noted, duly noted for the record. But ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the Great British Giveaway and your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, an incredible £85,000 in cold hard cash. Hayley Sparks has been on what I have been reliably informed was a magical trip to Lapland and has all the details you need for a chance to make it yours.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year.
An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make your new year the best yet.
And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate.
Imagine what next year could look like for you with a whopping £85,000 in the bank.
You could find yourself on the adventure of a lifetime or just safe in the knowledge that next year is on us. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours. Go on, give it a go, and Merry Christmas!
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Good luck, ladies and gentlemen. Beverly says kids today have no backbone to fight for this country. Although I'll note 2 thumbs up and 2 thumbs down, certainly causing debate amongst the masses. Renee, what do you have coming up for us?
So I was quite taken by the fact that the media are trying quite hard to make us believe that there is no attack on Christians in Africa, in Nigeria, and actually it's equally Muslims as well. Well, it isn't, and I'll tell you why after the break.
Don't miss it. You're with the Saturday 5 live on the People's Channel, GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference
It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
It's a surprise.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. A reminder that you can get in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. If you want to ask us a question in Ask the Five in the third hour of the show, please just drop a little Ask the Five in front of the comment so we can pull it out and get stuck in. Comments are already coming in thick and fast after that first segment of varying points of view. Union Jack says, soldiers aren't supposed to think or have a committee meeting before going into battle. None of the panel are suitable army material. Duly noted. Christabel says, our ancestors fought and some died for the UK. Without them, we would not have the freedoms we have today. My own father grew up without his father because he was one of those brave soldiers. Governments have let the UK go to the dogs, so to speak, and Churchill will be turning in his grave now. Christabel, thank you for that, poignantly said. Renee, over to you. Time for our next debate.
OK, so Nigeria is without doubt one of the deadliest places on earth for Christians. And finally, a leader with the kahunas to call it out for what it is, Mr Trump again, is actually taking some actions against the Muslim extremists who are killing Christians. Whilst the mainstream media has tried really, really hard over the last few days to have you believe that this is nonsense, the facts are very clear. We are talking Boko Haram, Islamic State and Fulani militants who are killing Christians in Nigeria and other parts of Africa. They are rampaging their way through Christian communities, massacring men, women, babies and using plenty of sexual violence along the way. They're using suicide bombs, kidnapping, and they do target Muslims if they get in the way, but their main target are Christians. Open Doors, an intra-society who look at this in great detail, report that Nigeria is the global epicentre for Christian attacks. There have been over 7,000 Christians killed in the first half of 2005, the number still being collated for the second half, and since 2009 at least 100,000, probably more. There have indeed been 60,000 Muslims killed in that same time period. The situation remains dire for many Christians in Nigeria, and they are calling for better protection. But the worry once again is that the West is bending over backwards to not call a spade, all in the name of cultural sensitivity. You know, that one that has allowed Asian grooming gangs to exist in this country to this very day. The fact that these groups also kill Muslims along the way is tragic again. But it should be the warning to the West that when these groups have finished with the Christians and the Jews, they are coming for you and I, because anyone that doesn't fit their very small definition of what is godly will be dispensed with. So stand up, I say, to our cowardly politicians, call this out for what it is and act, because we need it now. The West is under attack.
Kai, riddle me this, mate, because one of the really important insights there from Renee is that there seems to be a lot of hunts for nuance in Nigeria. You know, the left are looking for lines like, well, it's complicated. Well, you know, Christians are being attacked, but Muslims are being attacked as well. Wasn't much hunt for nuance in terms of the discussion around Gaza. Why is there seemingly such an attempt to try and obfuscate around the Nigeria conflict, whereas they're very quick to yell genocide in the Middle East?
Because your facts, I don't know really where you're getting them from.
I got them from Open Doors and Into Society.
What do we know with this organisation? Nothing. I'll tell you who actually... I'll tell you what the Vatican Secretary of State said. He said that it is not primarily a religious conflict, it is one that is a social conflict. Now, the religious element...
You are making my point for me.
The religious element, ironically, might have been exacerbated by Donald Trump's comments earlier in the month when he said that he would go guns a-blazing into Nigeria, rejected by the Nigerian government itself, of course, obviously. To anybody who's looked at this, it is clear that, yes, there's religious elements, there's ethnic elements.
No, it isn't clear at all, Carl.
Well, it actually is.
I have looked
at it. To any foreign affairs advisor or sort of researcher who's looked into this, it is an
Renee
agenda.
literally gave my point for me.
But you're leaning on so-called facts. Well, actually, what's happening? The evangelical right wing in the United States has designated this.
Kai, stop there for a second, because I do want to get Renee's response. What do you mean when you say he's making your point for you?
So the very point is that the facts are there from the charities and the organisations that collect this data. Open Doors is one of them. Into Society is another. But the West, all of the people you are quoting, are bending over backwards.
What about the Nigerian government?
The Nigerian government
they don't have some kind of vested interest in covering up the fact that this is happening in Nigeria.
I have to agree, both of you guys are actually right. Kai's right in that it is actually a tribal ethnic thing. You know, you had the Biafran War, which happened in, it was the 70s to 80s, I believe, which is a tribal thing. So people from my tribe, the Igbo tribe,
was being... 2025.
One second. Were being slaughtered at that time. It was tribal. But at the same time, Dr. Rennie is right, because when you actually look at the figures, it is probably the deadliest place for Christians in the world. Yeah. And we can't argue with that. That is a fact.
Which is awful, and those should never happen, right? I completely share your... that is awful, right?
And the three groups doing the killing are Islamist groups.
Yes, and there's also inter-ethnic rivalries that are playing a part. There are other different...
Emma,
trying to simplify it.
Kai, provide some moral and intellectual clarity for me, Emma.
Why is it so difficult for some people to just name the source of the violence against Christians, that it's Islamists who are doing this? Baroness Cox has been working on this issue of the Fulani in particular and what they've been doing to Christians in Nigeria for literally decades. She has been hammering away, constantly trying to raise awareness of this issue. Open Doors is a perfectly credible source. Renee gave all of the sources for her statistics. This is something that we have known has been happening for a very long time. Sure, the Nigerian government might say whatever they say, but if that were a Western government, you would say, oh, but they have got various biases and there's a reason why they don't want to talk about this. Why is it, as Will said, that it's perfectly possible for people to talk about what's happening in other parts of the world, where, particularly if Muslims are the perceived victims, but when in countries like Nigeria, in countries like Syria, Iraq, and actually even in Hamas-controlled Palestine, why is it that when Christians are being genocided in those areas, when the numbers of Christians in those areas are plummeting at a rapid rate, nobody is willing to name the problem? Why is that? I'm sorry, but it's morally bankrupt.
I think, stop, Sir Senator. I'm going to let Kai, I think rhetorically, as a question, she's made her point pretty forcefully, but I'm going to enjoy just watching you attempt to answer.
Islamic terror is obviously a threat for Christians in particular, but also to the West.
And
on that we agree, and Jews, obviously, and to Jews. But
so
I'm just saying that trying to make this out to be entirely Christians dying and entirely about Islamic State and Islamic terror against Christians misses the wood for the trees.
May I quickly?
Because it's not
a final quick reply, Emma.
This is exactly, and it's right that Renee mentioned Rotherham, because this is exactly the same kind of equivocation to say that we can't talk about this specific thing that's happening because some other people have died.
It's complicated. Lots of men.
And that's all the time we have for that particular debate. I'll let the audience make up their own minds where they stand on the issue. Kai, what do you have for us next?
Oh, I'm going to be talking about how racism is hurting our NHS just when we most need it.
You're with the Saturday 5, live on GB News, the People's Channel.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries, all sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, if you're off to the Eastern Med or Italy over the next few days for a New Year break, it'll be often sunny and dry, but much more unsettled towards the Western Med, particularly across Iberia, with some areas of low pressure bringing in some heavy rain, some strong gusty winds as well, and some mountain snow. Heavy snow on Saturday and into Sunday across the Pyrenees and Andorra. The showers clearing away from Sicily, leaving most of Italy and Greece fine and sunny, but there will be some heavy snow across parts of northern Turkey, otherwise a fine outlook elsewhere.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Over the next few days, we'll see a lot of fine weather across the UK, a fair bit of cloud at times, and staying pretty chilly with some frost increasingly so as we go through the coming week. We've got high pressure centre towards the north and northwest of the UK. That's feeding our air in from the east and northeast, quite a cold direction and quite tightly packed isobars, indicating quite brisk winds too. So as we head into the evening and through the overnight period, we'll see quite a bit of cloud feeding in from that northeasterly direction, giving some patchy rain or drizzle in places. The best of the breaks generally up towards the north and northwest, certainly across Scotland, fairly clear skies at times. That will allow a fairly widespread frost to form here by the morning on Sunday, and a few freezing fog patches also likely here by the early hours. Temperatures below freezing then across parts of Scotland, but mostly frost-free, with temperatures holding up just above freezing across the south of the UK. So we head through Sunday then to start the day. A lot of cold weather across Scotland. Some early sunshine coming through once the fog and frost lifts, but some of that fog could well take a while to clear on Sunday. A few brighter breaks coming through at times across Northern Ireland, and then we head into quite cloudy skies across England and Wales. Again, the cloud thick enough in places to give one or two spots of rain. The best of the early brightness across England and Wales out towards the far west and southwest. Heading through the rest of Sunday then, once that fog does get finally clear across Scotland, plenty of fine weather to come, lots of sunshine here. Some sunshine at times across Northern Ireland, a few breaks across northwest England and West Wales, locally down towards the far southwest, but elsewhere, quite a cloudy day in store. Again, the cloud thick enough in places to give the odd patch of rain, and then later in the day, some clearer skies coming into the far southeast of England. Temperatures generally speaking close to average, but still quite breezy, so feeling chilly out and about, and temperatures certainly suppressed across the north where the fog is slow to clear. As we head into the evening on Sunday, frost soon returning across Scotland, and some frost also forming under clear skies towards the south and southeast of the UK. And as for the next few days, well, into the early part of next week, it stays pretty quiet across the UK, some sunshine developing during the day, but certainly quite a bit of frost around as we go into the overnight periods.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. I will pull back the curtain. The debate on Nigeria just kept going throughout the break, just slightly louder and with slightly more colourful language. Please get in contact again with us at gbnews.com/yoursay for Ask the 5 in the final hour. Don't forget to put Ask the 5 in front of your question. Janet, I think, made a really important point on your say. She said the reason Muslims are losing their lives in Nigeria is very different to the reasons that Christians are. Christians are being specifically targeted because of their religion. Muslims are losing their lives because they're being caught up in inter-clan attacks. Yeah. She goes on in a very insightful comment, which I'd suggest you have a look at. In the meantime, we will move on to our next debate. Who have I got coming up?
It's me. You just hadn't had enough. I'm going to be talking about how racism is hurting the NHS and just when we most need it. Now, if you scolded yourselves on Sprouts or drank a bit too much and fell down the stairs this Christmas, well, I hope you're well. And no doubt you had to use our NHS at some point over the festive season. But the chances are that at some point you will have been seen by a foreign-born doctor. And in fact, the GMC now estimates that around 42% of doctors in our hospitals are foreign-born. The bad news is that might not be the case for much longer because Jeanette Dixon, the chair of the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, warned this week that more and more people, foreign doctors, are staying away or indeed leaving the UK entirely because they face intimidation, a hostile environment, racist abuse from staff and from patients, and aggression. Now, which other industries might we be hampering by allowing this increasingly hostile environment? We need to build more homes. We need to build more data centres, I'm told. We need green energy. We need nuclear, all needing training and years of it too. So we may disagree on our views on migration and what needs to be done to plug the skills gap. But let's not allow that to create a horrible environment for all those people who keep our country going.
Renee Hunderkamp, MD, your response?
Look, I've not worked in hospitals for 5 years. I worked during COVID in hospitals. But obviously in my practice, we have a practice that's full of people from Poland, Italy, Greece, Tunisia. We have a complete mix, and I can promise you I never see racism within that. The only racism that I have seen over the last year to 2 years has been against our Jewish doctors and our Jewish patients. I've seen that from doctors of a certain faith who believe in a certain cause that have marched on our streets every weekend. That's where I've seen the racism coming, strong and hard. We have patients who are too scared to go to the NHS because they're Jewish. We have doctors now who are finding it almost impossible to work. So that's maybe the racism she's talking about. I find it very hard to believe that other doctors are being racist. I can believe that patients are occasionally racist against these doctors, and that's completely wrong and should absolutely be called out. Whether they're leaving or not because of it, I find that a little bit strong.
It is interesting that what she also specifically called out is the political, the political language that, for instance, Nigel Farage, but also Wes Streeting and Keir Starmer using the sort of atmosphere, the hostile atmosphere that they're creating towards any migrants wanting to come to the UK, which is interesting for me because I consider what you're doing to be quite right.
Don't worry, I'm not
but doesn't this risk, and for Jewish patients as well, all of this, I fear that we're leading towards a tit-for-tat place in this country where this kind of language, this kind of aggression is tolerated.
Do you think we're creating a hostile environment, Emma?
No, I don't. I think for a very long time we haven't been able to discuss things like migration. I think very often people just take people being anti-migration as being racist in some way or as being xenophobic in some way. I agree with what Renee said, but I also think, and I mean, I'm not saying that this is exactly what she's referring to in this, because I don't know specifically what is being counted as sort of racist in this context. But there was a story a few weeks ago in Queen's Hospital in Hornchurch, or in Romford even, where patients were filling the corridors of the hospital. And actually, my dad was there with an elderly neighbour who had been pushed from pillar to post through these corridors for 48 hours with a head injury, not being properly seen to. And now in hospitals, as you'll see, they have all of these signs everywhere saying there's a zero tolerance attitude towards harassing staff. But I think actually very often, when you're simply trying to get yourself heard in these contexts, in many ways, the patient is treated as if they're some kind of aggressor just for trying to fight their corner, which they have to do in order to get their proper care. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going on in these situations, that people are... There's no justification of people, you know, actually harassing or being unkind to members of staff in the NHS. But I think that... that very often people in those situations are are fighting for themselves, and sometimes they're treated by NHS staff as if they are in some way being aggressive.
I think that's a fair point, Trey. Unfortunately, I won't ask for your comments on this one because you'll be taking minutes away from yourself on your topic.
Do you know, I actually don't mind taking a few
fair enough. Go on.
Myself, but we can't deny that the climate in this country is changing when you've got political leaders talking about didn't see in a white face in Birmingham. Others are talking about too many black and Asian people on adverts. Come on, Kai's right in that regard. You know, you guys may not see it, but it is happening. I think the pendulum has just swung far too far. It's not just about migrants, it is about other migrants.
I'll ask this side of the table to bite their lips. Go on, Trey, what have you got?
Right. I want to talk about a related subject, actually, and this is about the limitations on freedom of speech that is coming from the right. Think about this, right? Cancel culture, deplatforming, demonetisation, restricting protests, police and expression. They all sound like a lefty paradise, but they're not. These are now some of the favourite tools of the right. After years of condemning the left for exactly these tactics, what on earth is going on? In the US, for example, we're now talking about visa applicants being asked for 5 years of their social media history. God forbid that they criticise a certain president. At the same time, there are calls to deplatform people like Tucker Carlson, who was once an absolute darling of the right, and now that's actually fracturing MAGA from within. And here in the UK, we've had calls to silence people like Gary Lineker, threat to defund the BBC, pressure campaigns against the British Museum and the National Trust, and of course the prescription of things like Palestine Action and attempts to curtail protests, particularly pro-Palestinian protests. And when you add in the outrage, like I just said, of people of colour in adverts and anything pro-LGBT, you have to ask, what is going on? This isn't about left versus right anymore. It's whether we actually believe that freedom of expression and speech is important, even if it's uncomfortable. What do you guys think?
Well, Renee, I'm not convinced by all of the UK examples from Trey, but where he may have a point is, for example, on Palestine Action. I'm not talking about their right to assemble, which I think is rightly banned under, what is the Terrorism Act or whatever we call it, but people who are supporting it, for example, just with a poster, their speech has been curtailed. So in that regard, yes, the right has limited speech, or it's supported limitation of speech. Do you think he's on something?
No, I don't. I think the examples you've given are all in America, and I do think there is...
Not all of them, no.
Yeah, they are, and I'm going to come back to you.
Defund the BBC?
Well, that's a leftist organisation, by the way.
Leftist? Like the British Museum and the National Trust?
Yeah, OK. I mean, look, all of those are in America, and there is a big problem in America, and Trump is actually, I think, suppressing speech in a lot of ways. I agree with that. And I think that the MAGA movement is ripping itself apart. But in relevance to the UK... The shutdown of free speech here has always been on the right. Lucy Connolly went to prison for 2 years when a Labour, or I think he was actually an independent guy, who said, cut their throats, made the sign, went in front of a jury and got acquitted in 17 minutes.
Always been on the left, you mean?
Always been on the left, have been set free to say whatever they want. Gary Lineker, you quoted, I mean, for crying out loud, could you have a more left-wing, you know, and he wasn't shut up, that was the whole point. And now he's got an even bigger contract on another side where he'll say the same kind of thing. Pro-Palestinian stuff Will has covered in terms of the prohibition of those, but we have seen on our streets for 2 years, every weekend, these people bringing London to a standstill. I don't know how much more freedom the left want, but be someone religious outside an abortion clinic thinking in their own head, off you go with the police. Be a Jewish man wearing a cross when there's a pro-Palestinian, off you go with the police. You're talking rubbish, Trey, again.
No, disagree. Completely disagree. I think the right is tearing itself apart with using lefty tactics. And bear in mind, I don't agree with a lot of left on the left. But I think, for me, it's all about giving people freedom of expression, because if you don't, it can be used against all of us.
Kai, your thoughts? The left has a massive problem with freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
It's a damn shame. And I get angry because I get criticised for coming on this show and talking to some of you. And I think it's important. And there's no reason why the right need to own free speech. They do in this country. But I do think that sometimes that support for free speech is mealy-mouthed. Because actually, when you drill down into it, I find too often right-wing people on this channel and elsewhere, their commitment to free speech is just convenient and not steadfast. And I found that on things sometimes like the Palestinian protests, which, I think they were nonsense. I think they were disgusting, some elements of those protests. But we heard a few people talking about really, it's enough, time to shut it down. And it's sort of free speech for thee and not for me.
Emma?
I think there's a shocking amount of nuance on the panel tonight because I ever so slightly agree with Kai.
Goodness.
Because I think,
spirit.
yes, there is no reason why the right should have a monopoly on free speech. I do think primarily, very much primarily, clamping down on freedom of speech, censorship has been a left-wing issue. But I do think that the right do need to be guarded against what is a very natural, it's part of human nature, this desire to have the means justify the ends and to clamp down on those who disagree with you, particularly if you think that it's an emergency situation, to just do away with principles. I think it's wise for the right, and I think it's a very conservative position, to say we should always be guarded against that. However,
can I clamp down on your speech momentarily, Emma? Because I think you're about to add further nuance which we don't have time for. But what do you have coming up for us after the break?
Christmas is under attack.
Yeah, well, that's
Pure and simple.
that's the type of brevity we're after. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry. This is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello, everyone. Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Emma, what have you got for us?
Well, you might have seen Zach Polanski's Christmas message, and you might have seen the Christmas message from Jimmy Kimmel, which was particularly awful. But what you might not have seen is Islamic State's Christmas message. So, Islamic State put out, I guess, a sort of press release. It was described as a newsletter, whatever that means, calling for the Christmas period to become a season of terror, attacking Christians and Jews. And they mocked the fact that we've taken security measures at our Christmas markets, like those hostile vehicle mitigation bollards that we saw recently at Birmingham Christmas Market. And we've seen all sorts of Christmas markets being patrolled by armed police. And now in this little press release, this message that they put out, this is a quote. They said to engage crowds of Christians and Jews in the heart of Europe, America and the Jewish state, running them over with buses, beating them and smashing them with heavy hammers. Now, these attacks, they're claiming, are a sacred duty. We've already seen in Turkey that they have arrested 115 ISIS suspects who were planning an attack on New Year celebrations. Just before Christmas, we saw that Germany and Poland managed to foil attacks on Christmas markets there, and the French won't get to enjoy their traditional New Year concert on the Champs-Élysées due to security risks. And we've seen across Europe, we've seen in Germany, in Belgium, in France, nativity scenes have been destroyed, baby Jesus statues have been decapitated and stolen. A donkey was actually punched in the face. And so this has become a real issue, this targeting of Christmas in particular. And I thought, just to maybe lighten the note a little bit, let's take a look at Bradford's multicultural Christmas tree there, so that it's not just ISIS who are attacking Christmas here in the UK. The local councils are doing it for us as well.
Yeah, Kai, why have we got to a point in society where Christmas trees need to have fences around them in order to be protected?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. What's not surprising, however, is that the Islamic State terror group wants to unleash this kind of carnage on Western Europe. What I'm thankful for and grateful for is that seems to have not been the case here or indeed in most of Western Europe in recent years. Of course, as you say, there's spates of attacks and so on. They hate our way of life, obviously. But luckily, we have a state that seemingly is still able to do something about it. And you hear about these foiled attacks. But I don't know, I mean, what's your answer to that? International terror.
But you say,
international Islamist terror groups are always going to want to do this, aren't they? They did the same earlier in the year.
The thing is, Kai, you say, well, what are we going to do about this? But the things that we're doing, things like putting bollards at Christmas markets, this really is a sticking plaster. What we need to do is have secure borders, because open borders get abused by ISIS. They did that with the Brussels and Paris attacks. It's well known.
I think Emma may have given you a hint there, Trey, but I'll ask you the question that Kai didn't answer. How have we got to a point in society where we need fences around Christmas trees and bollards around Christmas markets?
You know, honestly, because we got rid of the very strong men that actually put a leash on these people. I mean, can you imagine? ISIS would not have been there had we not...
Metaphorically speaking.
Are we going back to war? Go on, go back to Syria.
Why do you hate when I go back in time?
Oh, because it's...
We celebrate the poppy because we look to learn from the past. I don't see why we can't...
Every answer to every
But let me
question.
answer, Will, because there's always historical context. ISIS formed because there was a vacuum in that part of the world that we went in there and blew apart. I think we should actually take a leaf out of some of those Muslim countries that don't tolerate ISIS, and we need to get really, really tough with them.
We don't tolerate ISIS.
Renee?
But we do.
Renee,
They allow them to roam in places in the world that we shouldn't.
Renee, I'd like to hear...
Foreign intervention says
probably now,
Stop.
because you've already started.
I'd like to hear your response to
I
that.
actually agree with that last comment. We should actually, but we haven't got the kahunas like Trump has to actually deal with these people.
We'll end up like Nigeria if we don't deal with it.
We'll end up like Nigeria. And I actually think that if we could think back just 10 years, these invasions of Christmas markets anywhere in Europe would never have happened. And the reason that it's happened is the mass migration of Muslim Islamists, whatever you want to call them, into Europe, so that the numbers are so vast now that they can actually coalesce and attack Christians in their own
I wonder where they all came from. The same destabilised regions that we went in there and destabilised.
Have we destabilised Eritrea or Somalia or
I don't know how many of them were from Eritrea and Somalia.
We're not responsible for Islamic State. We're not. Islamism has a much longer history than, you know, even since 9/11. It's ridiculous to think that in any way we're responsible for the violence that comes off of
a lot of
ideology.
Islamism started with the Mujahideen in Afghanistan, who were sponsored by a certain freelance organisation to fight the Soviets. But that was the genesis of a lot of that.
But that's where we are, right? So what's the answer now? So we disagree on what the answer is.
This is the answer.
What we're talking
I'll tell you
about.
what the answer is. You have to work with the Muslim populations, most of who are not extremists in any way, shape or form, in order to eradicate them in partnership. But you can't just demonise all Muslims. It makes no sense. Nothing will change.
Where are the Muslims standing up to talk about the grooming gangs every day? Where are they?
I will. You know, I will pause the conversation there because I know when we get to the point where Renee is saying what Kai said, the debate has devolved into farce. That's enough for this hour, but there's still loads more to come tonight, ladies and gentlemen, including the Saturday Scrap, where we'll be debating one of the topics you chose live on the People's Channel, GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see a mixed bag of weather across the UK over the next few days. Some sunshine, but equally thicker bits of cloud giving some patchy rain and some frost and fog in places during the overnight period as well. High pressure centre towards the northwest of the UK at the moment. Fairly tightly packed isobars indicating quite brisk winds, and those winds are coming in from a chilly east to northerly direction. Certainly a lot of cloud coming in on that easterly flow during the overnight period as well. Some cloud breaks out towards the west of Wales, across the far southwest of England, but the best of the overnight breaks are likely across parts of Scotland. Here turning quite frosty, the blue colours there indicating a widespread frost. Some fog patches in places as well, but with the cloud down towards the south and across eastern spots, and with that breeze too, mostly frost-free here. So as we go into Sunday then, we get off to quite a bright start across Scotland once the fog and frost lifts, but that fog could take time to clear in places. Certainly a very cold start, to say temperatures below freezing in places here. More in the way of cloud across Northern Ireland, some bright spells. And across England and Wales, it's a fairly cloudy start to Sunday as well. The best of the early brightness across West Wales and the far southwest of England, but elsewhere with a cloud around and a bit of a breeze too. It's mostly frost-free across England and Wales. Going through the rest of the day on Sunday, once that fog and frost clears from Scotland, plenty of sunshine here, some brightness out across other western spots at times, but generally speaking, it will be quite a cloudy day, especially across England and Wales, mostly dry, and later in the day we'll start to see some clear weather moving in across the far southeast as well. Temperatures close to where they should be for the time of year at about 6 to 8 Celsius, still quite breezy in the south, taking the edge off of those values, and a bit cooler, especially if any fog does linger across parts of Scotland. Monday gets off to a clearer start, so we'll see more in the way of frost around, some fog patches in places. That should all gradually lift to leave some sunshine in places, but notice a band of cloud with patchy rain, a bit of hill sleet there moving south across parts of Scotland. And that takes us into a fairly settled start to the next week. Some sunshine at times, but equally quite chilly still, with some night frost and fog in places.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
This is your chance to become our biggest cash prize winner to date. £85,000 in totally tax-free cash could be making its way from our bank account to yours. It would be like having over £7,000 per month extra to play with each month for a whole year. That could be you, safe in the knowledge that 2026 is on us. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
It's still Saturday night, and this is still the Saturday Five, ladies and gentlemen. It's the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. I'm Will Kingston, along with Dr. Renee Honderkamp, Emma Trimble, Trey Lowe, and Kai Wilshaw. Tonight on the show, ding, 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 the Saturday Scrap is coming your way.
And backgammon is back, and I'm all for it.
Prepare for another intrepid adventure into the lefty mind with triggered tantrums.
And prepare to meet the teacher labelled as a terrorist for showing a Trump video in class.
And an inspiring story about a cat, unfortunately not a beaver, who found her way home.
It's 7 p.m, and this is the Saturday Five. Welcome back to the Saturday Five, ladies and gentlemen. I think I've done this show, geez, it would be over 18 months now. I can't recall a debate continuing in quite the way that it did during the break between the hours. Certainly hit a nerve amongst our panel, and from what I can see on your side, it hit a nerve at home as well.
I had to leave the room.
Renee had to leave. I think that was partially due to your coughing and spluttering and partially due to your outrage. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. We still want to keep hearing your views. They are coming in thick and fast. gbnews.com/yoursay. But before, and we say this every time, but quite almost literally start tearing each other apart once again, ladies and gentlemen, it is your Saturday Night News with Bethany Elsey.
Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 7:01. Russia's latest assault on Ukraine has killed at least 2 people and injured dozens more and left hundreds of thousands without power. It comes as Volodymyr Zelensky is meeting with Mark Carney in Canada to bolster support ahead of further peace negotiations with Donald Trump tomorrow. The discussions are focusing on security guarantees for Ukraine should Moscow agree to a ceasefire. Ukraine's president thanked Canada's Prime Minister for their support in attempts to bring an end to the war, including an extra $2.5 billion in economic aid.
Last weeks we had good steps in diplomacy, but we can't live in illusion that it gives us possibility to have less air defense. With Russia it doesn't work. So thank you very much, Mark, for this meeting. We will have bilateral, and as you said, we will join our European friends. And tomorrow I will have, I hope, very important and very constructive meeting with President Trump.
Scotland's biggest hospital has launched a full investigation and issued an apology after undertakers were given the wrong body for a funeral service. The error was made by mortuary staff at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital in Glasgow, and they have now been suspended. The mistake involved incorrect labelling and was only realised after cremation had taken place. A Scottish Conservative public health spokesman has branded the incident as shocking and unforgivable failure. The government is launching a gap year scheme to give school and college leavers a taste of the Army, Royal Navy or RAF without a long-term commitment. The course is aimed at under-25s and is part of efforts to solve long-term recruitment and retention problems. Applications to be part of the first 150 recruits open in the spring before expanding to more than 1,000 a year. The Bayeux Tapestry will be insured for around £800 million when it comes to the UK next year. The Treasury will back the cover of the 900-year-old priceless artefact under the government indemnity scheme. The insurance will cover damage or loss during its transfer from France and while it's on display at the British Museum. And state of emergencies have been declared in both New York and New Jersey as they brace for their biggest snowstorms in years. More than 2,000 international and 14,000 domestic flights have been cancelled. People across the northeast have been advised to stay off the roads because of treacherous conditions. Ice storm warnings have also been issued for most of Pennsylvania and Massachusetts. You're up to date. Let's get back to the Saturday 5.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
It's Saturday night. You're with the Saturday 5. I'm Will Kingston. I can promise, and I genuinely mean this, you are in for another very lively hour. Geez, an 800 million potential pound insurance bill for the Bayeux Tapestry. That is quite a lot of pressure on the removalists.
Might be worth losing it and making it home.
certainly one way to fill the black hole.
That's called insurance.
Renee's never going to get insured again for anything.
I want to call out this one comment from Druss the Legend. I love this comment. That was certainly an interesting discussion. Probably the first time I've agreed, at least in part, with something each of the panel has said on the same subject. So
I love that. Yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
Really great.
Or maybe I'm not fostering enough division as the host. We'll see. We'll see how this goes.
You're doing a great job.
This turns out in the next hour. Let's crack on with tonight's main event. Well, I can certainly promise division here, ladies and gentlemen. It's emerged today that the UK has more foreign doctors and nurses than any other Western country. Foreign-trained doctors made up more than 38% of our medical workforce in 2023. That compares with less than 20% across 28 developed and developing countries. So tonight we're asking, should we stop all NHS immigration, as in immigration of NHS doctors and nurses, until every British trained doctor has a job? Seconds out. It's round one.
Right, it's me. I'm going to start because nothing Kai says will make sense. You know that. I don't have that much to say because I think the figures actually speak for themselves. When you consider this year that there were 59,698 applications for training jobs. So these are doctors, fully qualified doctors who need an ongoing speciality training post. For 12,743 places, you know there's a problem. 4.7 applicants for every post. Now, these are doctors who have spent 6 to 7 years initially training, then another 2 years getting their registration with the GMC and being able to be fully functioning doctors in any scenario, who have massive debt because medicine is one of the few degrees where you are expected to attend lectures 5 days a week, and there's a hell of a lot of work in between. I know, I've done it, so I can vouch for that. So they've got a massive debt, and it always used to be that you knew you were going to take on this onerous task, but when you came out the other end, you would get a job, and then you would get a training post. So that was the payback for that input. Now, what we need to consider is going back to those first 2 years before these doctors are fully registered. They are doctors, but they need to actually go through FY1 and FY2. And at the end of that, they get their training post. 10.9% of FY2 doctors failed to get a job at the end of that 2 years. So do you know what those doctors do? They go to Australia or New Zealand or Canada, because why wouldn't they? And I fully understand why they would. Then if you look at the actual registrations in 2024, not the total number on the GMC list, the actual number of registrations by the GMC of doctors in 2024 is quite staggering. 66% of all doctors who registered for the first time on the GMC register in 2024 were born and trained abroad. 66%. Think about that. Then let's look at these applications. Of the 25,496 doctors who actually applied for a post-speciality training job, 10,622 were from the UK trained, 14,800 from abroad. They are being outmanoeuvred at every single part of the process. And what you must remember, the UK doctors are working. They're working in the NHS. They're working really hard. The foreign doctors actually have plenty of time to sit and practice for those applications to get it right and get the jobs ahead. 75% of those UK applicants got a job. That left 25% who didn't. 40% of those foreign ones. It is time to stop all recruitment from abroad until every single British-trained born doctor has got a job.
Full employment if you are a doctor. No, I mean, again, on this issue, we agree to some extent, Dr. Renee, and Wes Streeting himself has said that it has to be an approach where Brits are prioritised over foreign labour. How have we got into this situation for years and years? We've relied on foreign labour instead of building up our own supply of doctors. But that is where we are. The facts, again, speak for themselves. We have 325,000 out of our 1.5 million NHS workforce who are foreign-born. And to approach this in the way that the question is framed, and what Renee won't tell you, is that if we stop all NHS immigration, stop all health and social care visas, stop every single specialty that we might ever want to fill at short notice, urgently, and at the highest quality, we risk total state collapse.
Didn't ask for
NHS
that.
failure. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. What we're talking about is stopping all NHS immigration. And that would be the definition of throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
I don't want a definitional debate on this, but what I do want...
But he's putting words into my mouth. He's saying I want to stop all NHS immigration. I said
it was the question.
I want British doctors.
It was the question.
I said I want British doctors to get jobs before any foreign doctors get jobs.
I'll open this up. There's one element of this which I've never fully understood, and that is the Ponzi scheme aspect of this, Emma, and that is if you are going to bring in a foreign doctor or a foreign nurse, in all likelihood they will come with a husband or a wife, they may come with several dependents, and of course they will all require medical care. Therefore, you are adding to the burden of the NHS on a net basis.
Yeah.
Make that make sense for me.
It doesn't make sense. I can't make it make sense. It is like a Ponzi scheme. It's a scam. Firstly, Renee's right. Nobody voted for this. No one consented to it. And I actually think that the argument that Renee has made is completely watertight. Even the idea that we are somehow hooked, or the NHS is somehow hooked on and dependent on foreign doctors coming over and working in the NHS. It's just simply not true, because we have invested.
We agree on that,
the point is we have invested. I mean, it is in the sense that factually we have a lot of foreign doctors working in the NHS. But as Renee said with these statistics, it's not that we haven't invested in creating more doctors here. We have plenty of doctors who are sitting there waiting to work, wanting to work, who have been well trained in this country where we know that the standards are high, and then they're having to go to another country in order to get work. It is absolute madness. And also we're investing in those people while they're here as well, and then they're going off and working in health services in other parts of the world. It is literally madness.
Trey, tell me how you can see both sides.
No, absolutely. I don't think anyone would argue that if we could wave a magic wand, we'd have all of the doctor position be taken by British-born doctors.
Can.
Right, we could. But I spoke about this actually on another debate, and from what I understand, obviously you can correct me if I'm wrong, there's been massive underinvestment in training for a long time. So I guess the rationale is it's quicker to import someone already trained than spend 10 to 15 years training someone else.
Yes,
the ratio.
That's what a lot of the...
That's historic. And today we have applicants who are British trained for jobs who are not getting them because those jobs are going to...
This is the point
that point I can never argue against. If I could choose, it will always go to British-born doctors first.
Can we just be reminded of those statistics again? What is it, like 59,000 applicants for 12,000 jobs?
Yeah.
There is literally no excuse.
So, Renee, what's the ideological underpinnings of this? Why is this happening?
So going back many, many years, probably about 30 years ago, we did not train enough of our own doctors to fill those spaces. So we got into this habit of recruiting around the world. But that has slowly risen and risen. And people might be surprised that if you look at doctor numbers in the UK, they're actually, I think, 30 years ago, it's gone from something like 8,000 doctors to 70,000 doctors. It is exponential. So we have opened up the actual number of doctors that we can train, and the BMA did suppress it for a very long time. We've opened up the number of doctors we can train, but we have not opened up training places. So that's one of the problems. There are not enough training processes for everyone. But certainly in that scenario, we should not then be giving those training places to overseas graduates.
What about retention? Has that been an issue in NHS, where a lot of them get trained and then they go off to USA or New Zealand or Australia?
Well, these doctors will go, a lot of them do, but these doctors will go because they can't get a training place. So to lose our own doctors because they can't get a training place is lunacy.
Is there not a merit-based argument also? Because if we accept all of the British doctors, say, right, for these specialist places, all the 59,000, we up the amount of places that's available. Does that not mean that based on nationality, we take everybody of varying quality and completely close the door on some of the best doctors from across the world? Surely we're a medical centre of excellence in this country.
A meritocracy-based argument from the left. This is exciting. Renee, how do you respond to that?
Look, if we think that our medical training, i.e. the students that we're tipping out of medical school are the best in the world, then we should have no problem doing that, Kai.
The amazing thing here is that the socialist on the panel is making an argument for global capitalism.
You've read me wrong, Everton. You've read me wrong.
Yeah, we may be starting to rub off on him. Ladies and gentlemen, just millions of more misguided lefties still to go across the country. Still to come tonight. Yes, triggered tantrums are on the way. But next, I'll tell you why apparently we should stop moaning about the tens of thousands of small boat illegal migrants who are rocking up onto our shores.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. It's the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. And of course, we want to hear your views. gbnews.com/your say. Get your questions in for Ask the 5. Just remember to put Ask the 5 in front of your message. Now to a story that will really get you going, or at least get you going more so than perhaps you are already going, as it were, from the last hour's discussions. The outgoing head of the United Nations Refugee Agency has suggested that we should stop complaining about small boat illegal migrants. More than 41,000 people have made illegal crossings this year. We're starting to fill up football stadiums. But Filippo Grandi told woke actress, quote from the auto cue, Kate Blanchett, who interviewed him for BBC Radio 4, that it's a small number compared with other countries. Filippo Grandi said, "There is nothing that creates a hostile environment as a badly organised welcome, and unfortunately we've seen that. In the UK, the small boats and the challenges of dealing with these people and some of the choices that were made and that the government is trying to correct have conveyed the wrong impression, and this brings chaos." I'm delighted to be joined by Mohammed Asif, who's the director of the Afghan Human Rights Foundation. Mohammed, thank you so much for taking the time with us this evening. I'd start by just asking your thoughts on, I think, probably two perceptions that I think are shared by many people in this country. The first perception is that with the amount of people who are crossing the channel, many of them unvetted, there is a risk to the safety of British people, and therefore as a result of that we need to restrict boat numbers or indeed stop the boats. And the second goes to fairness. So people believe that as a result of putting people in migrant hotels, you have British citizens that are not getting the same type of help and treatment. Perhaps maybe have a think, how would you respond to those different perceptions amongst the British public?
Well, first of all, you know, I was just writing an article. Today is the 46th anniversary of the USSR invasion of my country. And then we have to, you know, millions of people were made refugees. And I think Filippo is quite right. You know, 40,000 for a country like the size of Britain, which is actively involved in so many different conflicts. You may not agree with this. Britain is the cause of creating refugees along with the United States and NATO. And 40,000 is a small number, if you allow me to finish, because the poorest countries around the world take the bulk in millions. You know, Pakistan, a poor country, indebted to IMF, Iran, Lebanon, Jordan, you know, Iraq, a war-torn country, taking millions in refugees. A very tiny number comes here. And I also want to raise this point because you guys are always mixing asylum seekers with migrants. You know, those who come on dinghies because the legal and safe routes are closed. And it is under, as you know and I know, under the Geneva Convention, it is very clearly written there that, you know, seeking asylum is not a crime. You're not illegal. The moment you cross into this country and you claim asylum, you're, you know, you're vetted. And I believe that you don't even know your neighbor who stay with you on the same street, whether he has a disclosure or what is on his or her disclosure.
Mohammed, can I test that? Because you know as well as I do that the vast majority, well, in fact, all illegal migrants, or asylum seekers come from the safe country of France and have gone through likely several other safe countries before arriving in this country, surely that by definition makes them economic migrants rather than people seeking safe haven.
I would disagree with you because, you know, a lot of migrants who arrive here, as you said, or asylum seekers, you know, they have links to Britain. Either they have relatives. And as you know, Britain is a colonial power in the past. You know, a lot of people have links to Britain. And a lot of people want to come here because they have relatives or they have links or they have, you know, some other, you know, relatives or family members in this country. And that's why they come here.
That may well be the case, but that is still shopping around for your preferred choice of which country you would like to live in. Asylum, or seeking refugee status, is finding the immediate safe place to get away from whatever threat you may believe you are facing. So there may be a colonial link, and I'm interested to follow up on that, but surely that still means that they are looking for their preferred choice of location as opposed to genuinely being a technical refugee.
No, I mean, again, you know, you have to go back to the UN Refugee Convention. It doesn't say which country you can seek asylum. Maybe a lot of people or your audience don't agree with me. You know, you have every right to claim asylum. Maybe it's not very ethical, but I said a lot of people have links to Britain. You know, for example, in Afghanistan, you know, Britain was there for 20 years. And then 20 years of wars, you know, miseries, you know, British soldiers killed, 300,000 Afghan killed. You know what Britain and America did? They replaced the Taliban with Taliban.
Yeah, and I think the way that the exit of Afghanistan was conducted was absolutely appalling. I couldn't agree with you more on that one. I noted that you mentioned the term colonial links, or many refugees would have colonial links to the United Kingdom. Is there an element here, Mohammed, that you think that this is in some way trying to repay for, or you know, the third world or the developing world for the sins of colonialism? Do you look at it that way?
You know, I don't really look at it that way, but people have links, as I said, and a lot of historians will tell you, a lot of your commentators will tell you that people have links, particularly people coming from Afghanistan, Pakistan, Southeast Asia, and you know, or other countries. They have relatives here, they speak the language, they have some sort of connection to Britain. You know, simply to blame asylum seekers for the failure of day-to-day government in Britain is really wrong. You know, what we see is televisions, mainstream media, politicians running after asylum seekers and blaming them for the, you know, every sin of the citizens in this country. We did not cause the cost of living crisis, the energy crisis, the petrol crisis, the mortgage crisis. It is the British governments. You know, I'm not in power, so are my colleagues who are seeking asylum seekers.
I'm not convinced that sensible people are blaming asylum seekers or illegal migrants, however you would like to term them, as being responsible for every sin or every problem this country faces. There may be some people who are saying that. You're right, that is incorrect. I do want to go on specifically to Afghanistan here because this is the foundation that you are a director of, the Afghan Human Rights Foundation. There are statistics which are contested, mind you, and I say that very, very firmly, that it is more likely that an Afghan migrant will commit a sexual assault crime than someone who is a native of the United Kingdom. Why should the United Kingdom take the risk, even if the vast majority of Afghans who end up in the UK are perfectly safe, decent people? Why should the UK take the risk if there is a statistically higher likelihood that someone coming from Afghanistan will commit a sexual assault crime in this country?
Well, I tell you, if you have a curry on Sunday night and if you get stomach problem, you know, you're not going to give eating curry all your life. You know, I mean, there are about 70,000 Afghans in the UK currently, or maybe more or less. You know, among them, yeah, I condemn every asylum seeker, whoever, whether it's asylum seeker, someone who is born and bred here in this country, committing a crime, especially crimes against women, should be punished, and they should be punished according to the law in this country. But you cannot justify the actions of, you know, out of 70,000, there are not even, you know, 100 Afghan asylum seekers who are committing serious crimes in this country. You know, brushing every Afghan to be, you know, a woman abuser, to be violence against women or raping women. That's totally incorrect. And what I see is from the mainstream media, from the Reform Party in the far right in this country, blaming Afghans, for every serious crime in this country. If any black person or a migrant commit a crime, suddenly everybody links it to asylum seeker.
To call you up on that, I don't think at least the Reform leadership or anyone who is a Reform MP has suggested that Afghan refugees.
Oh, they do every day, I bet.
I don't think they have not suggested. They have not pinned every single problem in this country on refugees or illegal migrants, but they have noted that it is a problem. I do want to get to just for the final question that I have for you on this, which is not the risk of the safety risk that may come from illegal migrants, but the fact that many people perceive that if you put illegal migrants in hotels, you are giving them rights or you're giving them particular benefits, which say veterans from the United Kingdom sleeping rough on the streets do not have. What do you make of that argument, which I've heard from several people?
I mean, firstly, I don't agree with your definition of illegal migrants. If you're an asylum seeker, you're not illegal in this country because you register with the Home Office. And they, I work and I have seen the Home Office interview. It's quite substantive interview, and they ask you minimum questions. They ask you is over 100 questions, when you come to this country. They thoroughly investigate you. But, to blame asylum seekers for the veterans or people who are homeless, that's wrong. Because every person who is homeless in this country, they have every right, to be accommodated, to be placed somewhere. But that's not to say that because asylum seekers are put into hotels, no asylum seekers want to be in the hotels. Trust me, I work with asylum seekers every day. I know some asylum seekers are in the hotel for over 2 years. It is very costly. They are isolated from communities. There is no integration. People are asking for integration. But when you put people in the hotel, they're isolated. They're not allowed to work. They're in the remote areas. But to blame asylum seekers because veterans or the homeless are not getting accommodation, that's really wrong.
Sure. There may be some asylum seekers who are unhappy in their accommodation. I've seen footage of many more who do appear to be very happy. But this is a conversation, I'm sure, Mohammed, that we will be taking into 2026. I do really appreciate you taking the time and speaking with us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Why are you in this country? I'm here on the invite, actually. You ain't Muslim, so I ain't a Muslim. I'm here on the invite.
This week's Trigger Tantrums are on the way, but next, with Reform so far ahead in the polls, is it time for them to be given seats in the House of Lords? That's what a senior Tory has said, and it's part of our bunch of 5. You're with the Saturday 5 live on the People's Channel, GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, if you're off to the Eastern Med or Italy over the next few days for a New Year break, it'll be often sunny and dry, but much more unsettled towards the Western Med, particularly across Iberia, with some areas of low pressure bringing in some heavy rain, some strong gusty winds as well, and some mountain snow. Heavy snow on Saturday and into Sunday across the Pyrenees and Andorra. The showers clearing away from Sicily, leaving most of Italy and Greece fine and sunny, but there will be some heavy snow across parts of northern Turkey, otherwise a fine outlook elsewhere.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. Over the next few days, we'll see a lot of fine weather across the UK, a fair bit of cloud at times, and staying pretty chilly with some frost increasingly so as we go through the coming week. We've got high pressure centre towards the north and northwest of the UK. That's feeding our air in from the east and northeast, quite a cold direction and quite tightly packed isobars, indicating quite brisk winds too. So as we head into the evening and through the overnight period, we'll see quite a bit of cloud feeding in from that northeasterly direction, giving some patchy rain or drizzle in places. The best of the breaks generally up towards the north and northwest, certainly across Scotland, fairly clear skies at times. That will allow a fairly widespread frost to form here by the morning on Sunday, and a few freezing fog patches also likely here by the early hours. Temperatures below freezing then across parts of Scotland, but mostly frost-free, with temperatures holding up just above freezing across the south of the UK. So we head through Sunday then to start the day. A lot of cold weather across Scotland. Some early sunshine coming through once the fog and frost lifts, but some of that fog could well take a while to clear on Sunday. A few brighter breaks coming through at times across Northern Ireland, and then we head into quite cloudy skies across England and Wales, Again, the cloud thick enough in places to give 1 or 2 spots of rain. The best of the early brightness across England and Wales, out towards the far west and southwest. Heading through the rest of Sunday then, once that fog does get finally clear across Scotland, plenty of fine weather to come, lots of sunshine here. Some sunshine at times across Northern Ireland, a few breaks across northwest England and West Wales, locally down towards the far southwest, but elsewhere, quite a cloudy day in store. Again, the cloud thick enough in places to give the odd patch of rain, and then later in the day, some clearer skies coming into the far southeast of England. Temperatures generally speaking close to average, but still quite breezy, so feeling chilly out and about, and temperatures certainly suppressed across the north where the fog is slow to clear. As we head into the evening on Sunday, frost soon returning across Scotland, and some frost also forming under clear skies towards the south and southeast of the UK. And as for the next few days, well, into the early part of next week, it stays pretty quiet across the UK, some sunshine developing during the day, but certainly quite a bit of frost around as we go into the overnight periods.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, the UK's biggest Saturday night TV show. That last interview certainly grabbed your attention, ladies and gentlemen. Claire has said, "It makes me mad when certain people say crimes committed by immigrants against women should simply be punished. What about the avoidable, keyword being avoidable victims, no fault for them?" And I think this is an argument which a lot of people have made, and I think made effectively, to say, of course, the vast majority of migrants, illegal or legal, will not commit sexual assault crimes. But at the same time, every illegal migrant that does commit a sexual assault crime is an avoidable crime, and the victim is an avoidable victim. So that is certainly something, Claire, I think, which is a sentiment which is shared.
And every rape carried out by a migrant is a rape that didn't have to happen.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No one is saying that there aren't scumbags in this country, but unfortunately, every country has scumbags, and you have to deal with them. There is a certain risk that comes when you may be bringing more potential crime in than what is already here.
And how dare anyone say we should stop moaning about it?
Yeah, that's certainly right. Now, time for this. I will kick off on our bunch of 5, and this was one of those stories that comes out which I found somewhat perplexing. Well, most stories perplex me, but I've got a simple mind. More than a third of Gen Z youngsters find that it is socially acceptable to drive whilst drinking or being slightly above the legal alcohol limit. This is actually more than their parents and their grandparents' generation. Renee, we've talked about this before. Young people are drinking a lot less than previous generations, but they're more happy than previous generations to drink and drive. Explain that to me.
I found this an absolutely astounding story, actually, because young people really are not drinking as much unless they're changing their plans. The other thing that really came out of this story is it enabled people then to call for automatic breathalyzers on your car, so you can't get in your car without blowing into it, and your car doesn't let you drive. This is outrageous. You know, we had always had a society that was based on law and trust, that we wouldn't break it. And it's just more fun sponges saying, right, we don't trust you enough now to be a responsible human being in society.
Yeah. I should point out that I believe this survey was funded by an insurance firm, and I also know for a fact that generally insurance firms can charge higher premiums for younger drivers, so I'll just put that out there as a relevant background piece of information. Renee, what have you got for us?
So we had somebody today calling for the Reform Party to have elected... to be given lords, to be able to appoint lords. And I absolutely agree with this, because what many people don't realise is that in the election in 2024, 9,700 people voted for Labour. Mad. 6,828 for the Conservatives. Reform, 4 million, I think thousands, millions, sorry, millions. 4,117,000, and the Liberal Democrats, 3.5 million. So the Liberal Democrats have 72 seats in the Houses of Parliament. They have many, many lords. Obviously, they've accumulated those over the years. And so far, Farage has no representation in the House of Lords and has very limited representation in our Parliament because of the way of the system. So, of course, we should even up.
I would add to that, there are parties that have less MPs than Reform that have been given seats in the House of Lords. How is this not a fundamental undermining of democracy in this country?
Well, Plaid Cymru, which has been around for decades and has a similar, is set to maybe even win the Welsh Senedd elections, does have finally its own peer. Maybe a few. I think it's two. Reform is a bit of a novelty. Number one, I think Keir Starmer should have said that you can appoint a Reform peer. The constitutional settlement that we have at the minute, vis-à-vis the House of Lords, is broken because the Labour government would agree they're struggling to get anything through the Lords at the minute, lots of their legislation.
Why? Because
they're being blocked by the Tories.
No,
that's why we're appointing so many Labour Lords.
I do want to point this out. There is not a Tory majority in the House of Lords.
But they're still being blocked.
There is not a Tory majority in the House of Lords. What there are big cross-bench peers who often vote en masse, and that's what's holding up. They're doing their job.
Yeah, I would suggest that this is an argument to become better politicians than to blame the system. Right. Emma, what have you got for us?
Well, a teacher in Oxfordshire who's teaching sixth form students, so these are not little kids, has been referred to Prevent and likened to a terrorist for showing his politics students, because he's a politics lecturer, videos of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I reported on this yesterday evening. I think this is an extraordinary story. But Trey, what I said is I don't think this is an isolated case. I think this is one example of many of where we effectively have this woke, illiberal identity politics which has infected the education system, both at a school level and a university level. There's been heaps of examples this year of teachers who have taken a decidedly left-wing stance. Are you concerned that education is being politicised in this country?
I think it always has been. I mean, when I said to you guys, the only time I've ever voted was for Labour, God knows how old I was, 19 or something, it was pretty much because the teachers at university and college were very, very, very much pro-Labour. And I think for me, as someone who sits firmly in the centre, I think all voices should be heard. Absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think all voices should be heard. I don't think anything should be censored like that.
As an interesting statistic, there was a poll that came out, I think only in October, that said that 83% of the educator class, so university lecturers and teachers, are left-wing, as in they would vote for Labour or the Greens or whatever nutty party that Jeremy Corbyn and Sarah Sultana have come up with. What have you come up with for us, Trey?
So I think I've got a story that I've inherited from you, young man, which is about Huddersfield Football Club effectively asking people to dob other people in for obscene language, etc., which is quite funny because when you think about football and chanting, I don't ever think about it being PC. So it's quite an interesting one, I think, to say to people if there's anything naughty, report them.
To be clear, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't have anything personally to do with creating that policy. I just suggested the story to Trey. Emma, what do you make of that?
Oh, it's encouraging snitching, isn't it? It's just like during COVID, and I just think we need to get over this. It's making life miserable. It's making everything miserable. You know, I speak to Uber drivers all the time, and they all say the same thing. Everyone's become so miserable.
Yeah. I do agree. Maybe it's my age, but I do miss the days when you could just say things without offending people.
I agree.
I don't mind that.
I used to take young Callum up to Manchester United regularly because, of course, he lived in London and supported Man United. And we had a ticket in the family arena. The very first time I went, I nearly fell over with what I was hearing, and I was no wallflower. But even in the family end of the football pitch, it's pretty fruity most of the time. You know what? You get used to it and you just block it out.
To his credit, one of the few lefties who isn't joyless and miserable. Kai, what have you got for us?
I've got a story you may have missed. A former prison governor has warned us that a new generation of drones that can pull and lift 100 kilograms worth of weight may any day now pick up a prisoner out of one of our jails and whisk them away. Logistically, they say the threat is there. It's just a matter of when and not if.
I bet they're very good at hook-a-duck at the...
Yeah.
I can't say that, hook-a-duck.
Would you really want to risk your life like that, though?
The point they make, we have a lot of incarcerated people with loads of money, and the technology now is there. You know, already we have prisoners getting drugs and other contraband into prison. 1,700 drone sightings in the year up to April 2024.
I can't wait for the headlines the day this actually happens.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, they're going to have to go for the prisoners that watch what they eat, because lots of them weigh a lot more than 100
Yeah, it's fat-phobic.
Everyone's going to lose weight in prison all of a sudden.
The drones are fat-phobic. That's what we gained from this.
Look, part of me says, given that we're already releasing thousands of dangerous prisoners anyway by government mandate, just letting out as an alternative the ones that are ingenuitive enough to get out via drone may actually be a better alternative. But anyway, I'll leave that to the audience to make up their own.
So you're pro dangerous police.
To be clear, I do not support the release of dangerous criminals in any capacity. Still to come tonight.
God, I hate these people.
Unbelievable. Triggered Tantrums is next, ladies and gentlemen. You're with the Saturday 5, live on GBNews. News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Samantha, Jeffrey, thank you for your time tonight on The Late Show Live. Really appreciate it. This is a story that, amongst all the stories of wars and murders and crime and so on, at least it's given us a laugh, and at least the Raccoon is okay. Just explain to us, if you can, Samantha, exactly what happened. Where was the Raccoon found? Where is he now? Who found him and so on?
Yeah, so the store manager went to open up the ABC store here in Ashland, Virginia, and discovered a bunch of broken bottles in the back room. Upon further investigation, he was also located a raccoon that was passed out in one of the bathrooms. He had locked himself in the bathroom, and that's when the store manager called us to get him.
So first things first, how on earth did he end up in the store? How did he get in there?
So he fell through the ceiling. So he went through a ceiling tile and took out the wiring for the video camera as he was falling down. So we don't have a whole lot to go off of, just what the evidence that we encountered when we got to the scene of the crime.
So he fell through the ceiling, and I guess he landed on, because there's pictures here we've got of bottles of, I think it's whiskey, just strewn all over the store. So he must have fallen through the ceiling onto the shelves, smashed all the bottles, and then I guess from there thought it was going to be a great idea to, lap up all the alcohol on the floor?
I guess so. He just decided to have a party.
And who found him?
The store manager.
And what was their reaction? Have you spoken to them? What were their first sort of comments to you when I guess they called you to report the Raccoon passed out in the bathroom, right?
Yeah, they were a little bit distraught. They didn't know how to get him out. They obviously did not want to pick him up themselves. So that's why they called us for assistance.
GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 on the People's Channel, GB News. The comments continue to come in thick and fast on gbnews.com/your say. Dawn, I think, makes a profound point on the subject of Trey's bunch of five when she says, good grief, Jewish fans cannot attend matches in Birmingham. I think there are worse, bigger priorities than bad language. Dawn, absolutely spot on.
Here with Paula, LC for Reform UK, who says, can you imagine looking up into the sky and seeing flying people hooked to drones?
I saw that one. I enjoyed it.
It's a terrifying age that we are about to enter into. I'll also just add Jeanette's point that she believes asylum seekers should apply to countries similar in culture to them. I think this is such a simple.
Have them.
Well, that raises a whole different. That raises a whole separate can of worms, which I think is relevant, but also one that we don't have time for right now. Let's move on, ladies and gentlemen, because I know it's your favourite part of the show. It's Triggered Tantrums, and we're going to kick off with me. Can these people just give it a rest? It is Christmas, for Pete's sake. This was a Westfield that was overtaken by pro-Palestine protesters only the other day. I wish I could bring you something funnier. It actually developed into farce because there is another clip I've seen of that particular protest. Well, it's not a protest, it's a mini riot, really.
It is.
Where there were people pushing each other, there was obvious security risk, it obviously got aggressive in some instances. But you still had a very committed 19-year-old at, I imagine, the Christian Dior perfume stand who was still handing out perfume samples as this riot went along.
Maybe she's on commission.
Yeah, well, that is the great unwashed, isn't it? Renee, what have you got for us?
So I really love it when we see these trans breakdowns, and there was one this week that just made me think about the whole process of transitioning. I'll show you it before I comment.
Hold your ear while I say this. If you are not in support of trans people accessing gender-affirming care because it's not natural, but you are in support of people getting braces, I have bad news for you. Imagine saying to someone who needed like corrective eye surgery, hey, we can fix your eyes with literal lasers. We can make you see better. But it's just not natural. I'm not being hateful. Don't say I'm being hateful. I said it so nicely.
Yeah, you're not being hateful, you're being stupid. Because let's face it, if you fix somebody's eyes, it's because they're broken. If you fix someone's teeth, it's because they're broken. When you chop someone's penis off, there's nothing broken about them other than their head. And let me tell you, when we do this to young boys and young girls, it is forever. And they suffer the most horrific, lifelong medical problems that need constant attention. It's barbaric. Comparing it to braces, that's how serious that bloke is.
Emma, a penny for your thoughts on this, and I want you to look back at 2025, because in some respects I thought we were moving past the trans nonsense, particularly with the Supreme Court decision. I'm losing track of time. Was the Cass review this year or last year? Last year. In any case, there are positive steps that have been taken. At the same time, I'm also hearing of plenty of institutions, from schools to the NHS,
just
ignoring it. So do you think we actually have really progressed on the trans lunacy this year, or do you think we're stuck in stasis?
I think we've progressed in the sense that it's become easier to discuss these issues. But I don't think that we've progressed in the sense that we still have these intransigent institutions who are doing absolutely everything they can to avoid upholding was it the High Court judgment, Supreme Court judgment, that we have to have same-sex spaces. And so in that sense, I think that women's sex-based rights are still as under threat as they were previously. It's just the benefit is that maybe it's slightly easier to talk about it now.
Yeah, Renee, would you agree with that? You followed this topic obviously very closely this year.
I do indeed, as I want to protect my daughter from the future world. I think that we're actually, the women's movement is now in anti-progress, and I really do mean that. The Supreme Court ruling is not going to get implemented because this Labour government do not want to implement it and are sitting on it and will continue to do so. There are lobby groups that are so powerful with so much money, the Good Law Project, that are trying to overturn everything. We're not making progress now, we're going backwards.
Do you think Labor, Kai, secretly want to try and find ways to subvert the will of the Supreme Court?
I think they don't know what to do. Honestly, and I think
No,
they
it's
are
quite
probably
simple.
treading water. But I had hopes that this year would be a year that whatever decision was taken by the High Court, that at least the abuse and the willful cruelty would stop, and it hasn't. And I feel like trans people are more victimised and more the focus
Trans
of
people
aggression,
are more victimised.
aggression than
Never a
ever.
mention of the women being
I do
victimised,
generally feel
ever.
sorry for trans people, because I do think that movement's been co-opted by some people probably want to shut down women's voices, and I think it's hard. You're between a rock and a hard place. I genuinely, for me, as I said it before, I've got nothing against trans sharing my space or my toilet, but I'm not a woman. And that's the hard thing about it. When Dr. Renee speaks about Emma, they're just more qualified to speak on it in many ways than I am.
Why, for both of you, did you first instinctively go to feeling sorry for the trans people as opposed to the victims of people of trans crimes?
Why do you never?
Well, that's
why do
exactly.
any of you never?
Yeah.
Because
you don't know them and you don't care.
It doesn't matter.
You don't care.
It's not my problem to solve. I'm a woman. I have fought for over the years. I've got my spaces, and I'm not going to give it up for people who have a feeling, Kai. It's a feeling.
Can I add just something to this? Because I think this is very important, and it always gets confused when people are talking about things like changing rooms and they're talking about things like bathrooms, which is that the reason why women need to have single-sex spaces protected is not because all trans people are sex criminals or anything like that. The reason is because if you can self-identify and enter into a woman's space just by saying that you are a woman, whether you don a woman's outfit, put on a wig, whatever it is, if you can legally go into those spaces and that the women are discouraged from being able to call it out, from being able to say, please, could you have this man removed from my changing room, they are at risk of male sexual predators. So actually, to go straight to talking about trans people when women are just talking about protecting same-sex spaces is ignoring the fact that this is about women and protecting women, and actually not really about trans people who are experiencing gender dysphoria.
We'll save your right of reply until we will save your right of reply until the third hour. But for now, don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen, because coming up, it is the Saturday 5 Extra. We're going to let our hair down. As you well know, anything can happen. What could go wrong? You're with the People's Channel, GB News.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. We'll see a mixed bag of weather across the UK over the next few days. Some sunshine, but equally thicker bits of cloud giving some patchy rain and some frost and fog in places during the overnight period as well. High pressure centred towards the northwest of the UK at the moment. Fairly tightly packed isobars indicating quite brisk winds, and those winds are coming in from a chilly east to northerly direction. Certainly a lot of cloud coming in on that easterly flow during the overnight period as well. Some cloud breaks out towards the west of Wales, across the far southwest of England, but the best of the overnight breaks are likely across parts of Scotland. Here turning quite frosty, the blue colours there indicating a widespread frost. Some fog patches in places as well, but with the cloud down towards the south and across eastern spots, and with that breeze too, mostly frost-free here. So as we go into Sunday then, we get off to quite a bright start across Scotland once the fog and frost lifts, but that fog could take time to clear in places. Certainly a very cold start, to say temperatures below freezing in places here. More in the way of cloud across Northern Ireland, some bright spells, and across England and Wales it's a fairly cloudy start to Sunday as well. The best of the early brightness across West Wales and the far southwest of England, but elsewhere with the cloud around and a bit of a breeze too. It's mostly frost-free across England and Wales. Going through the rest of the day on Sunday, once that fog and frost clears from Scotland, plenty of sunshine here, some brightness out across other western spots at times, but generally speaking, it will be quite a cloudy day, especially across England and Wales, mostly dry, and later in the day we'll start to see some clearer weather moving in across the far southeast as well. Temperatures close to where they should be for the time of year at about 6 to 8 Celsius, still quite breezy in the south, taking the edge off of those values, and a bit cooler, especially if any fog does linger across parts of Scotland. Monday gets off to a clearer start, so we'll see more in the way of frost around, some fog patches in places. That should all gradually lift to leave some sunshine in places, but notice a band of cloud with patchy rain, a bit of hill sleet there moving south across parts of Scotland. And that takes us into a fairly settled start to the next week. Some sunshine at times, but equally quite chilly still, with some night frost and fog in places.
Today, clouds overhead,